MacVoicesTV is brought to you by CrashPlan. Your backup solution should be off-site, automatic, consistent, and transparent. CrashPlan delivers all of that and more, with the ability to schedule backups at your convenience, not your computer's, backup to external devices, a friend's computer, or the cloud, and delivers instant access to your data from your iOS, Android, and even Windows device. Get a 30-day free demo and learn more at crashplan.com. Welcome to Mac Notables. This is the home of the Mac experts you want to hear from, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, after several abortive attempts, we finally got back on Mr. Jim Dalrymple's schedule. Jim, it's great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Chuck. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. How are things in the great Northlands?
They're good. It started snowing today, so I'm not that happy today, but it just means I get to stay inside.
You don't like snow?
I don't like snow. I don't like cold. So
You're Canadian, Jim.
I know.
That seems a little strange.
I know.
Okay.
I need to be adopted. Anybody out there that wants to adopt me that is in a warm climate, I will play guitar. I'll play Aussie for you every day.
There you go. So somebody in Tahiti, adopt this boy now.
Or California.
Okay. I was trying to go up for you, Jim.
I don't want to be that picky. Anywhere is great. I can protect your house. I'm like a guard dog.
There you go.
Nobody's going to rob you with me around. Every day, I'll just sit out front in a lawn chair. And when the bad guys come around, they'll say, okay, not that place.
Yeah, good point. Good point. No doubt in my mind. So, Jim, at this time of year, we have to ask everybody, you know how it is. What are you giving for the holidays from a tech standpoint, and what do you hope to get?
Actually, what I hope to get is more for the guitar. I asked my wife to get me a noise gate for the guitar, so when I plug into my amp, it's not so loud. So that's what I'm gonna try and do for her, and mostly I think on a tech basis, I'm giving my father an iPod this year. He needs a new iPod, so I'm giving him an iPod. And a digital camera I'm going to give someone. So,
well, I have to ask, what kind of iPod? Are you going classic? No, sorry, scratch that. I didn't mean the classic model. I meant old school music-only iPod, or are you going toward the iPod Touch?
Yeah, a shuffle. My father exercises a lot. He bikes. So, sometimes he'll bike like, I don't know, 20 or 30 miles or something. I don't know why. But why would you do that? His car didn't break down, nothing happened, but he does it anyway. So I'm gonna give him a shuffle so that it's nice and light. He can just clip it on and go.
Good. Well, I'll make sure that he doesn't get to see this before.
Yeah,
we don't want to give it away.
I was gonna give him another set of car keys because maybe he lost his. But...
So you're not a biker, in other words, as in the kind that you pedal?
No biking for me.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
That's why I'm not a camper either. At the end of the day, I don't want to go into a tent fighting off the mosquitoes and stuff. I want to get into a nice bed, turn on TV, have room service come, have internet. That's my idea of camping.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I've never understood why we build houses to get away from the animals and then go out and try to live out there with them.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you have any pets, but the same kind of applies in reverse. We build houses to get away from the animals, then we bring them inside to live with us.
I have 2 dogs.
Okay, well.
Dogs are loyal.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their own bent. It's, whatever makes you happy. Okay. So nothing in the tech world that you lust after, Jim? That's a little surprising, or maybe you just get everything sort of automatically that there should be no lust for you.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that I'm looking for in the tech world this year. I've been very lucky with Apple this year in that I got to review a lot of the gear before it even came out. The Macs and the iPhones and iPads. So not much going on. If there was something that I really wanted this year that I didn't have, it would probably be an iPad mini, because that is just a gorgeous device. So I would definitely be going after that.
Jim, I'm glad you mentioned the Mini because that seems to be the standout thing from the last year. What kind of year do you think Apple has had? We've had the iPad Mini launch. We had Maps, of course, which sort of went the other way. We have had a Mac refresh, an iPad refresh, two iPad refreshes, sorry, an iPhone refresh. Has it been as good of a year for Apple as it feels like it has been?
Well, they seem to have updated everything, really. I mean, they updated the iMacs, they updated the MacBooks, they updated everything. All the mobile devices, new versions, and new product category for the iPad Mini. So, when you look at the last quarter and they pulled in what $8 billion in profit for 3 months, I just like one day of that profit.
Yeah, I'd take a couple hours myself.
I'd be happy. I'd just retire and that would be it. But I really do think it has been a good year. I mean, you look at the analysts and the analysts say, well, they didn't meet the numbers, but I when are we going to hold the analysts accountable for their numbers?
Amen.
I think that's a bigger issue right now. When a company pulls in $8 billion in profit, I think that they're doing really good.
And it's amazing. It doesn't seem to matter what, and this applies to most companies, not just Apple, but I guess we focus on Apple. They set the numbers, and sometimes the numbers become so unrealistic. Apple tries to set reasonable guidance or conservative guidance, so then they get penalized for that because, oh, well, they always set conservative guidance, and we think it should be more. We've talked about this before on the show. It just makes me crazy. The products are out there. They're terrific. Maps was probably the biggest issue this year, and even that, has not been a critical misstep. There are a couple ways around it, and for a lot of us, and I'm one of them, Maps has been just fine.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I mean, people look at Maps, and if you don't know any better, you look at it and say, "Oh, well, I've heard this is terrible. I can't trust this." I've never gotten lost with Maps, and everything that I need is right there. I tell it that I want to go to my favorite restaurant, and it takes me right there. So I don't have that issue, and it's easy to say that when you're in a place that like home. The best way to get to your favorite restaurant, the shortcuts and things like that. And Maps did a pretty good job of following the route that I would take. But in places that I don't know, for instance, I was down in Cupertino when the iPhone 5 was released. I think it was the iPhone 5, yeah. And I had a device before it was released. So I had to go see a friend of mine in Oakland, and I didn't know how to get to Oakland from Cupertino. So I punched in his address into Maps, and you would appreciate this, is actually Aussie sound engineer. Very good guy. So I punched his address in Oakland, and it took me right there, all through the highways and then the back streets, and however you get to his house. I never would have found it, but Maps took me there. It didn't get me lost. It didn't, take me out into the middle of the bay or anything, So I think it's great, but I do understand that a lot of people are having difficulties.
Well, and the thing that gets me, Jim, I guess, is, and maybe this is Google has set certain expectations. Maybe Apple has too. It's free, free. Doesn't cost a cent. Now there's some navigation apps out there. Navigon is the one that I prefer. That do, frankly, a better job. And when I say that, not necessarily about getting you there, but if you're on the highway, giving you more warnings, telling you which lane to be in. And it's a premium app. You pay a premium price, and I don't mean necessarily a high price, but just a premium over free, and you get more. But people seem to expect everything for nothing, And I don't know if that's Apple's fault for setting that expectation, or is it just the way the world has gone that if you buy one thing, it's supposed to do everything.
Yeah, I think that's the way the world has gone, to be honest. I think that we all expect that apps, if they cost anything, are going to be 99 cents and it's going to be the most amazing thing that you've ever seen. And that's just not the way it goes. I mean, people need to understand that these developers spend a lot of time and a lot of their effort and resources building these apps. It's not just one afternoon where you make this amazing app, although some of them could be. Um, but 99 cents, $5, $10. Um, I don't mind paying that. And I actually talked to a developer yesterday who he's doing a major update to his app. And it's on the App Store and for the Mac. And I said, well, I hope that you're going to charge for this one. You can't make this a free update, because he's been working for 6 months on this app. You can't expect him to give that away for free. He released the last version and lots of, incremental updates, but this is a major new version. I said, you have to charge for it. And when I say charge, I think the app costs like $5. So it's not a deal breaker. It's not $100 app. So I said, charge for it. 6 months of your life building this. Got to do it.
Well, Jim, the other thing too, at this time of year, and I try to tweet out whenever I see them on my Twitter feed, but if anyone is paying attention, you can buy gift cards for the iTunes Store, which work in iTunes and the Mac App Store, for basically a 15 or 20% discount. So stop beating on the developers, folks, to lower their prices. Go out and save yourself 15 or 20% and take it off the top from Apple, because they can afford it a lot more. Or the retailer that's selling them. I just did one today, $100 gift card or $250s for basically $80. So that's $100 for $80. Where are you going to get a 20% discount? I mean, that's on every $1 and $2 app. That's also on Final Cut 10, Motion.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything. And who wouldn't jump at a 20% discount? That people seem to miss that.
Yeah. And over the past month, I've bought maybe 4 or 5 different apps that all do the same thing, really. And it's not because I didn't like them. I was just interested in trying them out. Like IA Writer and Byword and a couple of others too, so that I could write in Markdown and be able to preview it and see what I was writing. And they were between $5 and $10 each, and that's fine. Those are fair prices. The developers worked hard on them. I'm willing to pay that. Now, if you go to the App Store and you see something that you don't think is worth it, and even if the reviews are positive and you still don't think it's worth it, don't buy it. You have that choice. You don't have to buy it. But if you see that the reviews are positive and the app is $7 and okay, then you pick it up.
And the thing is, in the App Store too, the small developer seems to dominate. You don't see the major players. Sure, you see Apple, but you don't see necessarily Adobe dominating. In fact, I don't think that there's anything of Adobe's in the App Store. It's just a different dynamic, and there are a lot of people, like you said, out there. They spend a lot of time on these things. No, I don't want to pay $5 for an app that turns on the light on my cameras to be a flashlight. No, I'm sorry. That's a little crazy. But some of the things that are out there, they do, pardon me, they do some fantastic things, and I want to support that developer because I want him to keep doing more.
Yeah, and Adobe does have a lot of apps in the App Store.
Oh, do they? My fault.
In the Mac App Store, yeah. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. You're right. I'm thinking, yeah, my fault.
And they have a couple of touch apps as well, but but if you look at some of the Adobe apps, Lightroom, just looking at it here, $149.99. Photoshop Elements, $80. You know, those aren't unreasonable prices to pick up software. And the thing that I like about it is the convenience. I mean, I really like to be able to hit pay and see it right there. You're downloading it right away, and you're using it. And that's the type of convenience that Apple brought with the iTunes Store, you know, for music, that, you know, I've thrived on for a decade now. I love the immediacy of being able to pay for something and download it right now.
Agreed. And to defend my stupidity, I was thinking of the CS suite of apps, which I don't think is in the App Store. So I'm not thinking about some of the others. Jim, the other thing that, or one of the other things I want to make sure we touched on, is that it appears that Tim Cook has had a really good year as well. He just came as runner-up to Time's Man of the Year. He had, at least in the States, he had a pretty significant interview, or at least that's the way it was played up on NBC. And it feels like Tim is really coming into his own as CEO, not pushing to, I guess, to replace Jobs in the public eye or anything, but just being his own person and letting that persona develop. What are your thoughts on Tim and how he's done and how it's being received?
I really like Tim. You know, Tim is he's a different guy than Steve was, and that's a good thing. I mean, Tim needs to be his own person. He's a genius when it comes to the operations of Apple, and he's the one that really helped turn Apple around over the past decade with manufacturing and channel and everything else that he was in charge of. And to come into a role like the CEO of Apple, following Steve Jobs, must have been very difficult. But he's done it, and you know, if you look at the profits of the company and the products that have been released under Tim, he's done a great job. I mean, you can't argue with that many quarterly profits, and you know, the number of products that he's released and the types of products that he's released.
I hear the dog. Jim, I agree, and I think it's just interesting that his softer, kind of quieter persona seems to be being well received. I mean, we always had Steve, and Steve was the visionary, and Steve was the consummate showman, and Tim doesn't have those skills in that way. He brings a completely different feel to it, and I think you may have hit on it. Maybe because it's so different, it doesn't feel like there's a challenge there, that he is being himself and he's not trying to be something that he's not.
Well, can you imagine what it must be like to be Tim Cook and, you know, be in sort of the background the whole time that you're at Apple? You're a part of the analyst conference calls and stuff, but you're not one of the stars of the company that Steve struts out at events and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're expected to literally go in front of the world, because when Apple has an event, the world watches. And he has to go out and introduce a new product and do this whole show of, you know, how Apple is doing and what's going on and why they're doing this new product. And here it is. That must be tough. I mean, that would be tough for anybody. But here you have Tim, and you're throwing him in this position. I think he's done very well at the events that he's put on.
Yeah, I agree. And I just hope it continues. You get the impression that he's just going to do it his way. He's not going to try to be something he's not. And you know, in the tech world, with all the huge egos, that was a danger, I think, no matter who was put in that position. And I think every company will face it, and especially the tech companies, and especially the very public-facing tech companies. Microsoft is one that has to jump to mind. What happens when Ballmer steps aside? Love him or hate him, he's very recognizable, and it's going to be a challenge to step in there with all the issues that Microsoft has.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, you know, I think most people think it's time for Ballmer to move on. The only people that don't sit on Microsoft's board at this point. But I think a lot of people would like to see Ballmer move on and get some new blood in there, and there are a lot of smart people out there that could probably do a very good job at Microsoft. Um, because at their disposal, they could do a lot of different things. And Apple has shown that they can do a lot of great things, but kind of focus all their resources. When you're talking about the design team is Johnny Ive and a few designers sitting around a table. That's pretty amazing considering the products that they put out. So I think that's something that Microsoft needs to adopt as well, instead of letting Steve Ballmer get up and try and, I don't know, like, he fishtails up there all the time. You're never sure what's going on. And I think people are over it. I think people are over Microsoft in the way that they traditionally do things.
That's a really interesting statement. It does feel like that Microsoft, for all their bluster about innovations, they've stuck with the same thing. They keep going back over and over and trying it, and it's worked less and less and less.
Yeah.
And they better make some changes. I mean, look at the Surface. I mean, the launch of the Surface, and whether it's a good product or not, I'm not going to sit here and comment, but you have to categorize it as botched.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly the launch of the Surface seems botched to me. The decision way back to keep a Windows desktop and mobile operating system as one seems botched to me. I mean, there's so many decisions along the way that just don't seem to make sense. It seems like from the time they started, they had problems. Right from the operating system all the way up to when the Surface was released. And it's not just me that would think that. If you take a look at some of the PC press and look at their reviews of the Surface, even they're not positive. So you have to think that there's some problems in there when the PC press think that you have some problems. And it's unfortunate for them, but they made those decisions. Those are things that they put in there that they need to fix.
Well, and it's a philosophy. I mean, in hindsight, yeah, I think we both agree that they don't look like the best moves, but they had a philosophy and they've tried to implement it, and what they found is that the audience is somewhat limited for it. I know a couple people, much to my surprise and a little bit of horror, that said they were, going to buy a Surface and to try it out for the usual suspect reasons. That, first of all, it's a PC, so they feel comfortable with that in their world. Second, it runs, or is supposed to run, Office a lot more seamlessly than you can on an iPad, and that's enough. And I'm still fascinated by the fact that some people, the world just seems to revolve around Office.
See, I think for a lot of these people, the world revolves around Office and that familiarity. And when you break with the familiarity of Windows that a lot of these people have, what you end up with is people owning an iPad and then going to buy a Mac. And we've seen that through financial reports, through keynotes that Jobs and Cook have given, where they say 50% of the people coming into the Apple Store are new buyers to Apple, and they're buying Macs and iPhones and iPads. So it's in Microsoft's best interest not to let those people break away from their product line, but I don't think that they can help it anymore. I think that Microsoft really ate up a lot of its goodwill with Vista. And, Windows 7 was a lot better. I admit that, I use Windows 7 in Parallels and Fusion, and it was a lot better operating system. I'll give them that. But there was still problems, and then when they come out with Windows 8, you kind of expect growth. in an operating system, where you can do more things and integration is better, and these types of things are happening. But what they did with Windows 8 is basically start over. But they tried to tell people that it was the same on the other side because you still had all, and I think people were confused, and that's a danger, because then people don't upgrade. And you're thinking, okay, well, if I don't upgrade to this and it is time to buy a new computer, what can I do? Well, there's the Mac.
There's the Mac, and Jim, to bring it back to Apple, we always kind of get on Microsoft and beat on them, but when you look at the adoption rates of the new versions of the OS on the Mac side, whether you're talking Snow Leopard, Lion, Mountain Lion, I mean they're pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm always intrigued by that. Is it the pricing? I mean, they've gotten away from the $100 and $150 upgrades, and the pricing is a lot more reasonable. But it just seemed, and it seems relatively easy to upgrade. Sure, there are always going to be a few things that break, that maybe worked on the old OS that don't on the new OS. But it's just really intriguing to me how easily they've made that. Excuse me, how easy they've made that, and how it gets overlooked by all of us because it is so easy.
Well, it's not just the convenience, again, because they don't sell a physical copy of Mountain Lion. You buy it on the store, on the Mac App Store, and it's downloaded to your computer. So it just runs. You download it, it runs, everything works great. And I think what Apple has been able to do is say to people, you have this OS on your iPhone and iPad, and that OS talks to your desktop OS seamlessly through the cloud. You don't have to do anything, and all of your information is shared. So people understand that. People know the frustration of opening up their iPhone and the latest contact information isn't there, or opening up any of their phones, their BlackBerry, if anybody still owns one, or the Windows phone, or whatever it is, Android phone. The latest info isn't there. I forgot to sync it. I forgot to plug it in. Well, Apple makes that all very easy because they've been building this infrastructure for so long to make this happen. iCloud is not perfect. A lot of people love Dropbox. I use Dropbox myself. So a lot of people love that, and rightfully so. But for syncing, which is what I use iCloud for the most, it's wonderful. It really does sync almost instantly. You make a change and boom, it's there. And people, if you talk to people about problems that they have, that being one of the problems, I make a change on my iPhone and I go back to my computer and it's not there, then I have to get up and go get my iPhone and plug it in and sync it, or manually put it in again. They understand that. So if you fix that for them, that's a plus. And I think that's what Apple's been able to do. I mean, they've come out with features like spaces and what's this one down here? Mission control. They have all of these different things that they've done over the years. Most of them I don't even use. I don't use spaces. I don't really use mission control. Yes, they are kind of cool things. Time Machine is very cool. That's something that I use. I use Time Machine a lot to back up. But I think that Apple has been successful in telling people that they can fix their problems. And that's why people are willing to upgrade, because the machines, for the most part, are staying relevant. People years back can go update their machines to the newest operating system and get those features. So that's all good for them too, that they're not cutting it off at you had to have a machine made this year in order to run this OS. They can say machines built 2 years ago or whatever, that's where we're cutting it off, and that's great. So that makes a big difference too.
That's a great statement. We should have a T-shirt with that. The machines remain relevant. That's true. And Mission Control and Launchpad, and there are a lot of things that get a bad rap. but it feels like Apple has tried to address a lot of different levels and kinds of users. And until Windows 8, Microsoft hasn't. They kept putting whitewash on the same thing,
Yeah.
trying. Sure, they've made some improvements, they made some changes. At least this time, it seems to be coming out a little more rethought, and it's a lot set of different metaphors. Whether you like them or not, that's another discussion. But you're right, and the relevancy and the ease of updating, and not just from a price, but also from a technical standpoint. I mean, I'm sorry, here we go, but you look at the different flavors of Windows, and your brain hurts.
Yeah.
It's like, well, which one do I? Well, what's the difference in features? And well, one's of a whole lot more money than the next one. With Mountain Lion, I think there's Mountain Lion and Mountain Lion Server, and those aren't really OSs. There's only one OS. The other one is
Yeah.
a server software, and that's it.
That's it. You pay $29, or was it $19 for the latest one upgrade? Whatever it was,
Yeah.
it was under $30 for the entire operating system, not just, you go in and that's what you pay. And it's amazing that you get all of this for that price, but Apple is enabling you to get so much more because you have an iPhone or an iPod or an iPad. I think it's a great strategy for them. And Apple did go through a major change. I mentioned earlier about Microsoft going through this big change with Windows 8. Apple went through a big change with going from OS 9 to OS 10, where they really changed everything. But I think that it was a bit different because they did a good job of explaining to people why they were doing this. And people knew that the operating system had to change. And when Apple explained to them, the underpinnings is going to be BSD, and it's going to be more stable, and you're going to be able to do more things. Developers bought into it, and users, all we wanted as users is to not have things crash all the time. And when they said, things are not going to crash all the time, okay, go do it. We'll buy into that. And that's what we ended up with. We didn't end up with a confusing interface. We ended up with, at the time, Aqua was a pretty interface. It was very nice. But even if you take OS 10 now, it's a very nice interface. It uses great design. There are a lot of things going on in the background that we don't know about, but we're able to communicate with that OS and integrate all the other stuff that we use. And I think that's the difference between what Apple did and what Microsoft did, because people looking at Windows 8 seem confused to me, because it's not a take on what was going on before. It's something totally different that they don't understand. And when you don't understand how to interact with that, I mean, it's like if you and I were trying to have a chat here speaking different languages and didn't understand the other language. It just wouldn't work. We wouldn't connect on what we were trying to say.
It really is. Well, I wanted to go back to what you said about managing changes. There was the OS 9 to OS 10 change. There was the 6800X architecture over to the PowerPC, then the PowerPC to Intel. And I think your point is well taken. There have been very few short piers there. They've built bridges across those chasms as much as possible to sort of ease the transition, let you know, okay, this is going to make it easy for a little while, but it's not going to be there forever. So you need to make some adaptations. And they've given plenty of warning. It's not like a new version of the OS has come out and it's a surprise that something's not going to work. They've set the expectations well. Some people have still grumbled, but they were the ones not paying attention or just being recalcitrant. So, they deserve a lot of credit for what they've pulled off. And, Steve was there for that, and now it's going to be Tim's turn to see how he can take it into the future. But the DNA still feels right.
I agree. I mean, and Tim has made some changes. He got rid of Scott Forstall. He got rid of the Maps guy. He promoted Eddie Q and Johnny Ive. He got rid of Browett from retail, and so I mean, people in the corporate world say, well, Tim's putting his stamp on the company, and I don't think he's putting his stamp on the company as much as he's saying, okay, enough. You know, Scott, you've run rampant through this company for a number of years, and that's it. You're done. No more. And that's good. That's what a CEO should do. So, whether it was a mistake to get rid of Scott, I would look at it, and this is how I did look at it. Scott and Johnny Ive didn't get along. So, would it be a bigger mistake to get rid of Johnny or Scott? I mean, Johnny is one of a kind. One of a kind. There is no other Johnny Ive. So, I think the market would have crucified Apple if they had have gotten rid of Johnny. But Scott is a software engineer, a brilliant guy. You can't take away the fact that he was the father of iOS. He's the guy that built that. But there are other software engineers. There are other smart people out there. There are other geniuses out there that can take iOS to the next level. And, part of that was design. Part of it is functionality. Now we just need to see what they're going to be able to do. Johnny's in charge of that side of it now, Johnny and Eddie.
Wasn't Browett Tim Cook's hire?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Tim's first hire.
And he was willing to say, okay, this isn't working. We need to go another direction. And that, to me, says a lot. He's not afraid, not throwing somebody under the bus, just saying, this isn't working, and so we got to get somebody that does make it work.
Yeah, and I think Browett was doing some things that, to me, didn't make a lot of sense. And that was unfortunate for him, but he just didn't seem to fit into the Apple culture. And some of the changes he was trying to make didn't fit the Apple culture. And you have to wonder, what he was thinking in making those changes.
Well, you just said it well. I don't think Broward was a bad guy, and I think a lot of those changes in a different retail culture would have been just fine, would have probably been successful. But you're right. In the Apple culture, it just didn't fit.
I think he was a bad guy.
Oh, good.
I don't know. He just didn't come off right to me.
Well, I've never met him, and I've only,
me neither.
But it just the decisions. I'm with you. Through the Apple lens, they just didn't seem to make a great deal of sense.
I saw his picture on the website, though. I looked into his eyes. I could see.
That was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah. Well, you have that talent.
I growled at him.
Did the picture growl back, Jim?
No, it didn't.
Okay, good. Good. Hey, the last thing I wanted to touch on, and I'm just going to let you run with this. I'll say one word, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Instagram.
Ugh. Instagram.
Why? What happened?
What gets me is that Instagram came out yesterday and said, oh, no, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean when we said, when you post pictures on Instagram, we can take those pictures and your username and post them in ads and sell them and do anything we want with them. No, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean that. We meant the exact opposite of that. What a mess for Instagram. What a mess. I firmly believe that Instagram meant every single word of what they said in their initial privacy policy change, and they just got hammered because somebody said yesterday on Twitter, I think that they were putting this up as a trial balloon to see what the reaction would be. Well, that's stupid because they are now owned by Facebook, and Facebook is well known for their shoddy privacy issues over the years. And then you have a company that is very popular, has lots of pictures, and you take their privacy policy. You don't think people are going to rip it apart and look for every single word and phrase in there? Of course they are. And what they found was just a treasure trove of badness. And that's what we ended up with. And they took, a day or two of heat from the press and from users canceling their accounts, because I can see how users would be upset. Take it from, let's just take a parent of small kids. You take a nice picture of your kid and you put it up on Instagram for all your friends and family to see. Next thing, you turn around and it's in an ad. No, oh, that would upset me. I'd be upset with that, not because I didn't
Sure.
get money for it, but because, oh my God, there's my kid in an ad. And you realize later on it's because the privacy policy and the user agreement says that they can do that. Well, I don't think that that's right. But what people have to understand is that we pay one way or another. Instagram could come and say, you pay us $100 a year to use this service. And we say, okay, or most likely, no. But this gets back to what we were talking about with apps. We expect all of that user ability for free, but we don't expect to pay anything in the back end. But you have to pay. You pay with your data. And that's what we're paying with. We're paying with our location. We're paying with our pictures. We're paying with, everything that we do. That's what we're paying with, because they're able to sell that data. So, I mean, I don't know how many people know when they sign up for a newsletter, how many times that newsletter email is sold. It's sold to all kinds of different companies that want to send out a blast. Sometimes the physical list itself is sold. Sometimes they just, the company that you signed up with will just take a marketing message or an advertisement and blast it out to their people. So we do pay. And, I think a lot of people would rather pay with cash and say, I'll give you $20 a year, $30 a year. Just stop, putting my kid up on billboards. But I think it's, people, it's a two-way street here. People really need to understand that nothing is going to be for free. You don't think that Facebook is selling all the data that we have, that we give them? Of course they are.
Jim, this has been going on for so long, and I'm right there with you. I don't mind paying. In fact, I expect to pay. I would like to be given the option of how I pay, and but it feels like they almost tried to sneak one by. And I don't believe I'm wrong that this is the second or third time that Facebook or a Facebook company has tried to do something like this, where, okay, we'll take these, and it's a pretty broad-reaching agreement, and maybe the reason that people don't understand the implications is because it never got past 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days. There was such an uproar that they had to stop. So now I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist. But whatever the grand plans were to monetize this, they couldn't follow through because it would have dried up right underneath them.
Well, why say in your privacy agreement changes that you want to use all their pictures and that the pictures are the property of Instagram? Why would you say that if that's not what you wanted to do? I mean, clearly you wouldn't. So their apology or their what would you call it? Their correction, the misunderstanding, is all a sham to me. I think they should have just come out and said, you know what? Yeah, we thought that we might want to do this. We understand that you don't want it, so we're not going to. Instead, they come on, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, you misunderstand. Come on. We're not stupid.
If there are any attorneys listening that can explain if there's some legal reason, because Jim and I both know that there are times that certain boilerplate has to be put in for one reason or another, I'd love to hear it, but I haven't heard a single one of those explanations any time that this has occurred. And I'm like you, in just a plain English reading of it, it basically says, you're sending us your stuff to display, and so therefore we own it and we can sell it and do whatever we want with it. That's not good.
That's not good. And I don't think that, even though we expect and I think most people do expect that our data in one way or another is going to be sold, going to be used, going to be, advertised, whatever, however they're going to manipulate it. I don't think that we expect that the visual thing that we have is going to be used. Our location data is kind of anonymous. They may go and say to an advertiser, well, 10 million people took pictures in New York last month, in Manhattan. Okay, well, that's data. They can use that to sell advertising or to whatever it is that they're going to do. But then to take something as personal as a photograph, that's another level of badness altogether. You know, so
Yeah.
that's my view on Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram user. I signed up for an account a year or so ago. Never used it.
Yeah. I think you have to be really into photography or have a photographer's eye or something for that to appeal. Because there's some fun people to follow on Instagram, and I've signed up for Instagram just to follow a couple of those people. But it's not necessary to contribute. Not because I'm worried about anybody taking my pictures, because my pictures look terrible anyway. But it's just another channel, another way to communicate and share things, and that's great. But how they're being shared and with whom they're being shared, a whole other matter.
Now, my daughter uses Instagram a lot. She loves it. And, she's 20 years old and loves Instagram. All her friends use Instagram. Um, I don't know how many times you read a new privacy policy or user agreement when you install software. I never do. I install it and it comes up with this thing and I think, yeah. Skip. Just install it for me. And, I have no idea what we're agreeing to, but that's where, the responsibility, some of it has to come back to us, one way or another. You can be sure that you're paying for the software or the service. It's going to happen.
Listen to him, folks, because that's a great point. And moving into 2013, we're going to pay more in one way or another, and it's just a matter of what you're comfortable sharing. Jim and I are comfortable sharing our musical tastes. We don't have any problem with that, but I'm sure there are things that neither one of us would want to share or would want to pay for some of the services with.
Right. I mean, as long as you expect it, and when it happens, you're not surprised with it, then everything is fine. But I think that even if we do expect it, we do assume a certain amount of privacy. We don't want everything out there. Nobody does. Certainly not me, but nobody. So it's kind of, I think it kind of takes us off guard when we see things like the Instagram thing. And that can't be good for them. People were canceling their accounts and not everybody's going to cancel their account, but it's just a black eye.
Yeah, agreed. What are the holiday plans? Anything exciting?
I am going to work.
Okay.
I can't stop working. No real holiday plans. I'm going to stay here and do some work, catch up on some reviews, some music stuff. And NAMM is coming next month, so I'll be going out to LA, to Anaheim for that. So that'll be a lot of fun. And that's really it. I mean, Monique's going to make a couple of nice meals for us. We don't go out on New Year's Eve because, unlike some of the places where my adoptive family lives, it's not real warm here on January 1st or December 31st. My adoptive family in California or wherever they happen to be will be able to go out and enjoy themselves in t-shirts and shorts. Not here. Not here. When you step outside the igloo here, it gets cold. So I will be staying in. Well, Monique and I, we watch a movie or something on New Year's Eve. The kids usually go out. they're of that age now that, 20 and 17, well, they'll go out and do their thing, and that's fine. And I'm the designated driver, which is fine too. So we'll stay in, and at midnight, Monique and I will watch the local festivities on TV, the countdown, and then go to bed.
Designated driver for your kids. You're a good man, Jim Dalrymple.
That's me.
That's good job. Good job.
Thank you.
One last thing before we go, and I saved it for the last. Congratulations. I do believe that your podcast, Amplified, got a little recognition.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, we were best new technology podcast for 2012 for Apple.
Nice job. Nice job. Amplified is over on the 5x5 network. You can go check it out. Of course, I'll have links in the show notes. So we're happy that Jim still shows up here now that he's a star.
I always show up for you.
I know. And it's always a blast, Jim. Thanks so much.
When I'm there.
Have a great holiday.
You too, Chuck.
Folks, that's Jim Dalrymple of The Loop Jim Dalrymple of The Loop and Amplified. You can find him at loopinsight.com. And again, I'll have links in the show notes to Amplified and to everything else Jim does. One little housekeeping note, if you're not signed up for the Mac Voices Dispatch, our newsletter, please do. We finally got it off the ground, and it allows us to keep in a little closer touch with you each week. So you can find the links on the big blue button on any of the websites. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Notables, the home of the Mac experts you want to hear from. Thanks for listening. Mac Voices TV is part of the Mac Voices Group at MacVoicesGroup.com. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.